You have to change your audio output device. Remember? Oh wait, people can hear me. Okay, sorry. Great. Well, while Rob figures this stuff out, hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. Um, that's an intro. Hi.
Can I be heard now?
I guess we can start
Yes.
speculating on the rumor engine.
Uh,
Wait, he can hear Rob, but not Carson.
wait, are you sure it's not the other way around? What about now? You should have always been a.
I just unmuted the stream and you can hear us both.
Okay, you can. Okay, that's good because I did fix it, or I changed. So it's crazy because like on here, it says, like I'm using the right thing. Oh, he's trolling. Okay, thank God. Welcome everyone. uh, so because like one time during the stream, because I had like an update pending, it just decided in the middle of the stream, no, it's happening now, and it just messed everything up so bad. So what I did was I thought I was doing the smart thing and updating it before the actual stream starts. So then I do that, and then we're trying to get everything ready, and anyway, what's crazy too is like if you can see what I'm seeing, it shows that it's on like the USB audio codec thing that it's supposed to be on. But then when I click on it on the gear and go in there, it's like, no, you're using device 0.00001. Hey James, what up, horrible Keith? Thank you everyone for joining. We should call this the Trash Panda podcast, right? Like,
I'm sure that already exists, but yes.
Okay, welcome to
I'm gonna Google it real
AOS
quick.
Trash Panda. I'm your host, Rob. This is my co-host, Carson. Carson is triumphant. He is a triumphant bastard. That's a reference to Superbad. Welcome, everyone. 3 introductions. So tonight we're going to talk about what was it called? The Tacoma Open? Seattle Open?
The U.S. Open Tacoma, I think, is the full thing.
We're going to talk about, I didn't know what to call it, and I had not enough time. They held a tourney in the meat dimension, and he won.
Sadly, I had to step slightly out of the meat dimension, actually, to participate in this one, but
damn.
Yeah, I didn't win.
That's different than the lore. That's different than the lore. Well, you did win. You did win. We didn't say what. You did win.
That's true. I won something.
Yes,
you're right.
You won something. Absolutely. Actually, you won 2 things?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we had a few other people win some stuff too. Alex, who entered. So how many people, do we know how many people went from Warp Dice, our local group?
Warp Dice, 6 of us.
6 of us. Okay. So there was Dale, there was Alex, there was Eric, there was you, there was Kenrick, and there was, I said Eric already. M. I'm blanking on it.
Get it? How could you forget? It's Matthias.
Oh, Matthias, right? He's pretty forgettable. Sorry,
fair.
Matthias.
Yeah.
My mistake. I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, usually like him and Dale are like a pair. Like I don't even know how I could forget one and
when you say Dale, Matthias is implied. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah, that's what I meant. So yeah, there was a tournament. Alex won best Iron Jaws, I think.
That wasn't an actual award, but he was the top Iron Jaws player, yes.
Okay. Well, okay. That makes sense. Oh man, I just wanted to like spoof everyone that we can. Okay, so we'll get into that in a bit, but first, some minor news. Not a lot of like super crazy stuff, but we do have a rumor engine to talk about, and it's awesome, and it's almost certainly AOS, right? Oh wait, or is it?
Almost certainly, yeah.
Is that rebar in the middle of that, like, I don't know, it looks like AOS to me, even with that.
I
Um,
would still bet on AOS. Like I'd say
yeah,
it's like an 80-90% chance it's still AOS.
I agree.
Unless
Because
it's maybe like something new Eldar or like some
ooh,
basing or
see,
terrain or something.
I was gonna say the Cruel Boys, that moss thing that's hanging down, reminds me a lot of Cruel Boys, um, but even possibly Skaven, just because like you know what I mean. But that's a good call. That's a good call. But like, but I thought most of I don't think is there a lot of moss in the LRL stuff? Maybe you guys can tell me, dude.
It also kind of looks like the top of a screaming bell,
The top. Oh, I see what you're saying.
an
The
archway.
archway. Yeah. Although there are like Skaven symbols in there, but then they couldn't show that, right? Huh.
That's true.
Yeah. That's
It could be
interesting.
anything.
Yeah, man.
It's
Oh, Keith, I appreciate that. It was just like I was trying to get like a bunch of pictures and stuff ready for the thing at the last minute there, and put up Carson's list from the tournament, and then I just yep. Anyway, I'm an idiot, so that's cool. Um, AOS Trash Panda. That's the new name of the show. Um, okay, so uh, yeah, back to that. Also, could be Sylvaneth. We're still waiting on a possible Sylvaneth Harbinger or whatever Dawnbringer thingy-majigger. You know why Trash Panda? Because a long time ago, when I was first starting this, like I routinely have mistakes that happen, and so I kind of said at the beginning my vision for what this podcast is basically like you hear some noise outside, and and you turn the flashlight on, and it's a raccoon going through your garbage, and then he looks at the thing, goes like that, like he doesn't fully understand what's going on, right? Um, so that's pretty much why. Maybe it's just a Warcry scenery in the next box. That's true. I thought actually did think about that, Keith, but my pushback for that is I don't think they've ever just shown a terrain piece before. I think it's always like some kind of like basing thing on an actual model. I could be wrong though, and I would be super happy if you prove me wrong. But that would be cool. I would be down for that. Um, yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of things, but I think it's almost certainly going to be in the Age of Sigmar universe, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Well,
mean, like, yeah, it could be so many things that it's kind of hard to speculate.
it's true,
Um,
but
see,
I honestly, I really like it. Like, I
yeah,
really like it. I'm gonna say Cruel Boys though, just because I've painted so much of that moss crap that's hanging down there. It looks like it could easily be in like a swamp, which is I think Cruel Boys is the only thing that I know that exists in a swamp. So I'm gonna say Cruel Boys.
yeah,
Uh,
and I could see them like baking terrain onto something Cruel Boys because they're supposed to be like sneaking through stuff all the time. So
yep, there's a lot of that actually. Huh. Yeah, I should grab my. I don't know what I'm thinking of. It's either the dude on the big dog. I'm totally blanking right now, or it's not Gobsprag. Gobsprag's over that big log. There's something else that I'm not thinking of. I think it might be that guy, but yeah, there's some very swampy looking terrain that really reminds me of like some kind of stone or something like that. So anyway, okay. I guess we can go like having stone circles. That's true too. And I did think about that, but like we just got so much Seraphon stuff, it would be wild if there was another thing. But I am here for it, like a Stegosaurus of some kind, or like oh, there's so many cool things they could do. It's the new Dread Sorry. Oh, Beefy Crunch, don't tease me like that. I've got it one. You guys might have seen it before. Yeah, congrats again to Carson. We haven't even like announced it yet, but absolutely, thank you. Very kind, Beefy.
yep. Also, were you talking about the Kilobots on Great Nash Tooth?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Does it
Yeah.
have a
Yeah,
stone circly thing?
it does. It's actually like a little archway that's like
Okay,
halfway out of the ground. And it even has moss hanging down from it, so it's
Right?
very likely.
Okay, so I'm onto something here. You know what would be really cool? Like the thing that we always talked about, like what a lot of the KB talked about, uh, that group that sprouted out of the early release of KB and stuff like that, was we all thought we were going to get a bunch of like vulture cavalry, smaller versions of the Corpse Ripa Vulture that Gobsprack and co ride, and there's no cavalry or anything like it in KB. So that was like the big hope, was there was going to be some kind of vultures, but like regular guys riding just regular Gnash Tooths would be super cool as well. I would be super down for that actually. Um, you have a pro painted which one? Great Gnash Tooth? Won't be a Cruel Boys and Dawnbringers. IJ have a new model. That's true, but maybe because like Iron Jaws aren't, like nothing else has swampy terrain. Dreadsaurian, you're going Dreadsaurian? Oh, Oh, I see. Yeah. Have you seen my Dreadsaurian on the channel, Beefy Crunch? I've played with it a few times. I love it. I've got one that I spent about 200 hours painting, so I would be super
Could
down
also
for
be
that.
could also be Nighthaunt as well, with like those vines and stuff.
Right. That's a great call. Beefy Crunch, I will put it in the Discord. Just remind me, okay? Okay. I love it. So Sylvaneth, Cruel Boys, or Seraphon, or what was Nighthaunt? So we narrowed it down. My my final guess is definitely Cruel Boys, though, but I would be totally okay with being wrong. Yeah. Your final guess, Carson? Oh, and
Probably
Skaven.
Nighthaunt,
Nighthaunt? Cool. I like it.
just to be different.
I
But
like that guess, actually. I think it's a good guess. Uh, that army skipped leg day. Yeah. I don't know why, but I really like them. Like, they're less human, which is kind of what I want to see. Like, orcs to me are too, like, similar in basic shape, Whereas Cruel Boys are just a little bit weirder. That's what always attracted me to them. I prefer the look of their models, but
yeah, they're kind of like gangly and
yeah,
like lanky.
exactly. Yeah. Um, okay. FEC, James says. Not a bad call, actually. Skaven. Yep. It can be all of these things, unfortunately. Horrible says Night Haunt. Yeah. Well, there you go. Okay. So now, I really like this rumor engine, though, to be honest. Okay. So now, there wasn't a lot of news, but I don't know. I have a bit of a soft spot for old nostalgic stuff, and they did show this, like they had this article on Epic for 40K or 40K Epic, or I don't remember what it was called exactly, but I thought it was super cool, and I just like going down memory lane, and I just thought I would point it out to people and see if they enjoyed. Yeah. Right. So then, I guess on to the tournament, but first, really quickly, we're making some more content. There was a bit of a lull because our whole crew was going to a tournament, so I couldn't get anyone to film basically anything. So but we're working on content. Carson and I are working on Path to Glory stuff. We've got a new game we're going to try on the channel relatively soon. Sigmar willing and all that. And yeah, so more content on the way, so stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoy it. So, Carson, would you be ever so kind as to do the introduction for this tournament while I go get a drink because my mouth is dry?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so 6 of us at Warp Dice decided to go to the U.S. Open Tacoma tournament. That was just this past weekend. The 40K tournament side of things started like Friday, I think, but Age of Sigmar was just Saturday and Sunday. It went really well. We had a ton of fun. The entire team like kneecapped ourselves the first night because we decided to go to a tiki bar and like get absolutely hammered the night before. So every single team member showed up like way too hungover the next day. But yeah, actually, fun fact as well, the first game that I played in the tournament was against our beloved editor, James.
Yeah.
It was great to see him in person, and I got a nosebleed like 20 minutes in because I had such a bad hangover and it was so dry. So Sorry, James, for pausing the game for like 10, 15 minutes, but I really appreciate you actually doing that. Yeah. Um,
That was super cool. Yeah, you guys got matched up first game, right?
yeah, it was funny too because like he spotted me, and then we came to chat, and then someone went, "Hey, pairings are up," and we look up, we're like, "Oh, we're playing each other. Cool. Oh, anyway, let's go to the table," and just like, yeah, it was fate, I think.
It was fate. The great math decided it.
Yeah, he ended up playing Idnet Deepkin. They looked amazing. He was really kind during the entire game. It was great to play him. So
That's awesome. That's good
and
to hear.
and he hates me now because
Because you shot blood sausage, blood all over the table.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I told you not to put that blood sausage up your nose, but you wouldn't listen. You said no.
Yep,
I'm gonna do
it's
it.
just what I do.
Yeah. Epic Solar or Auxilia Army will be affordable. Require fine. I hope so too. I hope they bring it back. James says back in fourth, I accidentally ordered a giant lot of Epic. Think I got a deal on regular 40K. Oh no! Oh man, that is awesome. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but like that is such a great story. I actually had a similar thing where I saw like what I thought was like a Knight Titan on, and then I was like, wait a minute, that price does not make sense at all. I could see that happening. Uncle Rob, did you know life is spooky without? Okay, hey there, Uncle Rob. It's a crazy thing to call me. Okay. Anyway, so the rumor engine looks like it for Seraphon. Yep,
Rattle you for the rest of the stream.
absolutely did. Yeah. Got any picks you can put up of Carson's army? I do have picks. That's the reason why I was 1 minute late and didn't get a chance to check whether my mic was working. But it is coming. I just didn't want to do the reveal before Carson introduced it.
Yeah. Do you just want me to go through like the entire tournament or like the entire outcome
However
now?
you want,
You
my
want me to
friend.
just like unload it all at one time? Or...
What would be best for you?
I'm fine with anything.
Okay, why don't I first put
Unclue Rob.
yeah. Oh gosh. Okay, so what am I doing? I guess I'll put up pictures of your army.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, they're not in the right order anymore. So, boop.
I mean, we can just start off by saying like spoilers, but I ended up actually winning Best Painted at Tacoma, which is awesome.
Yes.
Got a trophy, which is super cool. This is probably like the nicest trophy I've ever received, like anything, because it's like specific to Warhammer,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Can you
Yeah, I
show
was
them all
super
sides
surprised.
of it?
Sorry?
Can you show them all sides of it?
Oh, all sides. Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you said show them the size of it. I'm like, bald man head for scale.
Yeah, you got to put it in
yeah,
front of your face, otherwise it disappears into the meat dimension.
Yep. So this side, you've got Archaon,
So cool.
and that's the side that actually says the text on it. The other side here, you've got just a generic Stormcast. Rotate it again, and I think, what did you say? It was a Gut Ripper? Probably.
I couldn't tell, to be honest. If Alex is here, he might know a bit better than me. But I think I've seen that face on a regular Gut Ripper. That was my guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, just a regular Gut Ripper probably, and then the last side is Nagash. So you got all four Grand Alliances represented. Hi Dan, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
So yeah, I was super surprised to witness. I was elated, obviously. There was like a lot of really good painters there. Our Warp Dice Eric was there, and he brought his like beautiful Seraphon army. Ricky Fisher was there with his like not only an amazing looking Gloomspite Gits army, but also like a really nice display board that has like a full on like it was like
the bridge,
crazy 3-dimensional, yeah, like a bridge and stuff like that. Whereas like if there's any critique I can give myself, it's that my display board is like very simple. It's just like gray essentially. But I did it. And then they oh, my dog's angry at me. I'm sorry.
So
they also give us
the totally normal.
They've got like these little plaques that they give you. And in addition to Best Painted, I also won Best Destruction. and God, my camera is not okay right now. Um, and if you're not familiar, best destruction is basically like the highest rated destruction player, after factoring for best general and best overall. Um, but yeah, I guess that kind of factors in, or sorry, like leads us as well to like my run. Um, I was again surprised at how well I did. Like I ended up going 3-0 the first day. Um, and the second day I won my first game, and then I lost to who ended up being the best general, which was Jeremy Lemoy. So I went 4-1 was my record. Coming sixth place out of 97 people, which is awesome.
Yeah, you played the guy who won the tournament at top table, and you only lost to him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very well known player too.
Jeremy Lemoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He ran. I ran Ogre Maw Tribes as I always do because I'm in the meat dimension forever and always.
Mm-hmm.
Except when I'm not going to be maybe soon because I'm thinking about doing some Slaves to Darkness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ran my Ogre Maw Tribes Meat Fist list, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And then he ended up running Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Mortis Praetorians. And then the battle plan that we played was, I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one where on a 4-up wizards explode.
Jeez.
And then that's the one where you can also deploy into combat.
That's
and
not a great choice for battle plans. What?
For the fifth round, it was a weird choice. But he's an amazing player, well-known player, like you said.
Yep.
So that, in combination with destruction going into Mortis Praetorians, which can countercharge, in combination with that battle plan, I didn't manage to pull the W, but he definitely deserved it. Like he played amazingly.
Wow. That is yeah. I'm not even beginning to insinuate that he didn't deserve the win or anything like that. I just I did not know that was the final battle plan, and I was a little surprised.
I mean, there's so going over all of the battle plans.
Yeah.
I think first off was Geomantic Pulse, which James and I played against each other. I think that was the first one. And then after that one was Spring the Trap, which is the one where you can pull D3 units off of the battlefield and then deep strike them in at the battlefield edge.
Right.
And what the TO ended up ruling was actually that you can't pull your enemies' units off the battlefield, in fact. Which is no surprise to anyone, but it's still. Cool. And then the third battle plan was Ice Fields, actually, which I was also not expecting whatsoever. That's the one where whenever you run, you just straight up take D3 mortal wounds, and then every time you roll a 1 in a charge roll, you take another D3 mortal wounds. And if you roll like double 1s in the charge roll, it's 2 D3 mortal wounds. And what was funny about that is that third game was me playing Ogre Maw Tribes, a very chargy army, who likes to run most of the time too to get in position, against Matt Beasley's Gloomspite Gits, who is like the most runny, chargy army in the game. Yeah. So we're both just like slipping on the ice, just like like it was a mess, but it was a really good game. Yeah, Matt Beasley's a super nice guy.
He's a great guy. He's been on the channel before when we reviewed Zeech, and kind enough to point me in the right direction with Zeech, along with Caleb. But yeah, no, great guy, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the fourth battle plan was I think it's Power Flux. It's either Power Flux or Nexus Collapse. The one where it has like 2 activated objectives, and then you swap between.
Oh, right.
The 2. Yeah. I think it's Power Flux.
I can't remember either.
And it's also that, if you have Endorian Locusts standing on objectives, you get extra points, and then in addition to that, whenever you kill a wizard, you get extra points too. And then the last battle plan was, as I said before, I can't remember what it's called, but it's you can deploy into combat, and you can also, on a 4-up, wizards explode.
Right.
The only two, those are the only two that I was like super confused by as far as like why they got picked for the tournament is the, I guess, battle rounds 3 and 5.
I'll give them benefit of the doubt and just say, it's super early and they were trying to kind of put the whole thing together last minute in terms of using the new GHB. Yeah. And so maybe they just didn't have the time, they had to decide and go with it. So, but yeah, those are not the best choices, you know, in terms of having like kind of a balanced sort of play for a tournament at
Yeah.
least. I mean, they're fine for like for having fun. Obviously, that's never a
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, but
Who I actually especially felt bad for in Game Five.
yeah,
So I was on top tables. There's two top tables for Game Five. One of them was me versus Jeremy Lemoy.
yeah.
Um, and then the one next to us was Noah. I don't know if you.
Oh,
I think he won LVO
right.
last year, or like he won some big thing.
Yeah.
But he was playing Beast of Chaos, and his opponent was Stark Hister from Dimensional Cascade,
Mm-hmm.
and he was playing Seraphon. I felt really bad for Noah because what Stark could do is essentially just like deploy as close to the center of the board as possible,
Yeah.
and then Noah, being Beast of Chaos, has to come in from a board edge, right, or shoot off of a board
Oh,
edge.
yeah.
So that's rough. Like I realized that kind of late, but that would be a really rough matchup for him to go into, and he did unfortunately lose. I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened,
Yeah,
but
fair.
still.
And what
So
was he
that
playing against? There was Beasts of Chaos versus what?
Seraphon. So
Oh,
Seraphon could
jeez.
basically set up their castle at the center of the board,
Oh,
and
I
then
see. Woo.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty bad for him. Like I definitely got the better end of the like, or like at least I wasn't Beast of Chaos is what I'm
OBR
trying
is
to say.
hard though. OBR is hard.
Yeah.
But fair. Okay. Wow. Um, shoot. Okay. So, sorry. They actually. Sorry. I'm just catching up with the chat. Seattle. Oh, Tacoma. Yeah, it was Tacoma, Bahamut. Sorry. OBR is a hard. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. For most of Destruction, I think. Why was that the battle? Yeah. Let alone on the tabletop. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, Keith. Yeah, they do ignore the rend, and yeah, like if you'd even had maybe like null myriad, you'd be like, okay, you know what I mean? He's like countering the meta, but he wasn't. He was just, you know. But it's cool. I mean, I'm almost kind of glad to see it in a way, but sounds like a good battle report matchup to do destruction on ice. I mean, we could definitely do that at some point in the future as well. We have a plan for something we're gonna film that uses your tournament list. So, but
Yep.
but that's what we've got something planned out. So yeah, we're probably do that. But that sounds like a fun future thing. We might do that on Patreon just because it's like a little bit more of a fun one. You know, I don't know.
Sure.
We can talk about it. But that's a great idea, Keith. I played it the other day with Kragnos Meatfist. Luckily, only rolled a couple of ones, but has the potential to hurt. Yeah, I can see that. You almost bought the General's Handbook, but not sure you're going to play 18. I can't read it. It's the stupid symbol.
18 games in a year.
18 games
I think
in a
that's
year.
fair.
Oh, yeah.
It's an expensive book for sure. I do appreciate that they brought it from 6 months back to a year. Like it's nice that you get essentially double the value of the book now.
It's true.
At the same time, like it definitely feels like one of those things where like you buy it, you scan the code into your app. Maybe you take the tokens out and you really never touch the book again, just because like
Yeah.
there was a requirement at the tournament that you have to have a physical copy of the GHB in order to like play, essentially, right?
What? Really?
It was a GW organized tournament, so yeah. But the thing is, like, no judge ever asked, so I don't know if people actually did that. And I don't think I saw a single person pull out their GHB, like in any of the games that I played.
To be honest, it's
So
not really cool. Like, even if it's like, okay, well, you have to, like, if you have it unlocked in your phone, that's fine. But like being required to take it with you, it's like some people are traveling, man. Like these luggage restrictions are not getting better; they're getting worse. That's
I think honestly it was just jerk insurance. Like if someone was like
Oh,
clearly being like, "Oh, well, the GHB says this," and blah 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 blah, and like they were just lying,
I
and then
see.
someone wouldn't be able to call them on it if neither of them had the book or something, right? You'd have to
I
call a
see.
TO over. So,
Okay, fair
but
enough.
what's weird is that they also gave you like these cards that had each battle plan on it for each round,
Hmm.
and it even said like this is round one battle plan, and then it would go over all of the rules, all the victory conditions and stuff. But I guess if you wanted to like know the specifics of optimal focus or like primal dice or something, then yeah, you would have to like actually open up your GHB.
That's true. And I guess
So
like if let's say someone didn't have a GHB and someone else was cheating, then they could maybe
yeah,
potentially blame GW or someone being like you should have provided a copy of the GHB so I could call them on that, and then it's just like, no, we're putting the onus on you guys. It
yeah,
from a a high viewpoint, it just seems like a useless kind of needless cash grab, but you know, yeah, yeah, fair enough.
absolutely.
Oh, Bahamut, we said it was probably I said
A lot
Cruel
of
Boys. Yeah. Because all the swampy, mossy stuff hanging down, and Carson said Night Hunt. But we had a bunch of guests in there. We also talked about Skaven, Sylvaneth, and a bunch of other stuff. Seraphon. I can't remember. Yeah. It could be a lot of stuff. But it looks cool. I'm excited for it. Bum, bum, bum. But yeah, I'm still deciding if I will buy the GHB, just print out the updated War Scrolls for the endless spells. I could, I would never blame someone for not, because like, frankly, they're expensive. Like, it's arguably too expensive considering they're just reprinting most of the book. There is R&D though, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the hidden cost that people probably don't see. I don't know what their R&D would be like, you know what I mean, for developing battle plans and rules and different things like that. Like, obviously there isn't much in terms of layout and whatnot, but like, yeah, anyway, it's yeah, it's a thing. Just do what you guys think, and if you're not playing in tournament, I don't think you need it, frankly. um it's worth it for me on the channel because like I try to film at least one battle report a week, and then it's just, you gotta have it for, you know what I mean, like I just kind of need it because it just makes everything easier, but I won't repeat that. So anyway, moving right along. So I put up an image of Carson's army, beautifully painted. The pictures look amazing, but they still don't do them justice. You guys would need to see them like in person, because the tattoos and just the highlights and everything, they're just really, really well painted. I'm glad you got the recognition for a well-deserved best painted, for sure. So this is the one picture that Alex put up Alex took this, right?
no, it was Ricky Fisher.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Alex put it up in
Yeah,
our local group, right? So,
I think there's two pictures actually.
yes, no, I was going to move on to the next
Okay,
one,
gotcha.
but I was just about to just say shout outs to Alex for putting it in our chat, and huge shout outs to Ricky for taking the pick. And yeah, Carson was not that well organized. He was just like, I don't need to take pictures of my army. What's your problem?
I
It's not
have
like
them here. I can
it's
just
not like I'm going to win anything, so we don't need them for
exactly.
posterity's sake. It's actually a pretty cool board, to be honest, but yeah. And the fire belly there is the new guy, but
Yeah, I finished that Fire Belly in like a week. That
yeah,
was that
I think
was that was last minute for sure. Also, Horrible asks, that's a great tattoo color, Carson. What color? Honestly, I just use Mephiston red. Um, so if you can find that or like anything similar to it, then that's that. I actually originally used on a couple of the older ones like Wazdaka red, which is kind of like a more muted,
mm,
like paler red-ish. But I found that like the more like orangey-esque red actually stood out a lot better. So
yeah, they look great. They actually do. The new tattoos do look better for sure. Yeah.
Dan says, Carson, talk to me about the Fire Belly. What do you want to know? As in like
Well, okay.
painting it or oh, go ahead.
Before we go up, I should pull up the list, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
can talk through my list.
yeah. So, oh, sorry, I didn't mean for you guys to see that. One second. I'm just going to pull up the list. There we go. And then, boop. Oh, that didn't get rid of it. There we go. Okay. Trash Panda, baby. So this is the list. I know the bottom of it. Is the bottom of it cut out? No, it's not. You can see everything, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, take us through it, man. Let's hear the whole thing.
Sure thing.
Why don't you go in
So
order just so you don't miss anything, and we'll
yeah,
get
I'll
to
go
that.
in order.
Cool.
So obviously it's Ogre Mod tribes. I live in the meat dimension.
Uh-huh.
Subfaction Meat Fist because I live in the meat dimension. Ready for Plunder is basically for anyone that doesn't play ogres or hasn't played ogres. Is basically just take what's theirs. So it's more of your units in enemy territory than enemy units in enemy territory. So you're just trying to get into their territory and stay there at the end of the game. My Triumph was inspired, which doesn't matter because I was at 2,000 points and I would never get it. As far as leaders go, I ended up having 3 casters. The first one is a Butcher who I chose as my general. And the reason why I chose the Butcher as my general is to allow Iron Guts to be battle line in this list, just because I didn't want to run 3 units of Gluttons. The command trait that I gave him was Shaman of the Chilled Lands, which gives him access to all of the Primal Frost spells. So what that means is you can pick one ogre-specific spell and then have access to all of the Primal Frost spells. So I ended up picking Blood Feast.
Just a note of apparently you were shouted out on Honest Wargamer, which is super cool. But
Yeah.
that was something that he got wrong, I think.
Yeah, it was. I think he just didn't see
The command.
I think
trait.
Shaman of the Chilled Lands is like a very Beast Claw Raiders-esque name, so it was probably easy to think that it was just like part of the book or something.
That's true.
But yeah, it does give you access to like so Hoarfrost, Merciless Blizzard is the name.
I think that's right.
Blizzard is what people call it, and
Yeah.
then Rupture as well. But
Right.
you never use Rupture.
No.
Then you give him the Tenderizer just to give him 3 attacks instead of 2. And that's pretty much it. The Butcher, to me, I kind of use him as just like an all-around, like, he's kind of a utility, or actually all of my casters, to be honest, that aren't the Stonehorn, so the 2 casters, the Firebelly and the Butcher, I don't use them offensively whatsoever. It's just like, what utility can I get out of these? So for the Butcher, it allowed me to use Hoarfrost, which is really nice, and then Blood Feast is also really good, just because you can give a ogre unit like +1 attack on one of their melee profiles. So you're essentially getting like 6 extra attacks from ogre gluttons or an Iron Guts unit or something. And you can really, it allows you to kind of like assess the situation and just choose whatever you want. And then if someone gets way too close, then you can like blizzard them in the face if you have a primal dice available to you, which is really nice. I didn't end up actually doing that ever successfully anyway. I tried to do it to Ark in the Black, but he dispelled it.
As he does. Yeah.
As he does.
The one thing too that I wanted to talk about before that I'm trying to kind of lean into now, if when possible. So in the previous versions, you've pretty much always had a this one's mine. So like basically, if your general kills something, it gets you a battle tactic. That's gone now. And instead of it, there's one where it's like kill the unit that killed your general. So
Reprisal, yeah.
I feel like there's like a kind of a trap that you can play by sacrificing your general to get a late game tactic, where people might play into that, and it could get you the win at some point if your general's not doing anything anyway. You could just charge it into a bunch of Mortric Guard or whatever's going to kill it. If it's something killable, like even if it's not, like if I send my Grey Seer into a unit of Tree Revenants, like they'll probably kill him. You know what I mean? Like if it's my Grey Seer, because he's just got a crappy save and he's a 5-wound hero, right? And then I can be like, okay, now the Tree Revenants die because like they're super easy to kill themselves, right? But anyway, that's kind of my thought on that. But I like it. You used to take the Stonehorn as your general before, right? No?
I used to take the Tyrant, actually. Yeah. No,
right.
I almost never take the Stonehorn because I want Iron Guts as battle line.
Oh,
so.
Fair enough. But like, I thought you had him be at the very start as your general?
Maybe, yeah, in a couple lists. But like competitively speaking, like in anything near tournament play, I don't do that.
Oh, okay.
With the new Ogre book anyway, like I don't think I've even run a monster truck list so far. I really like just having one Stonehorn.
I haven't seen you run it, that's for sure. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I would...
Yeah, Keith brings up a good point though, which is that don't throw your general away like early game. Like I might do that turn 4.
That's what I was saying. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Or exactly. That's what I was meaning. Just because like if it's the game's about points, so it depends on your army. Like you could do it for like Gits, who tend to be very command point heavy, or Seraphon possibly. There's anyway. Sorry.
Yeah,
That is a
absolutely.
good point though, for sure.
But actually, in like Uno reverse of that,
Yeah.
a lot of people tend to target your general to like
Anyway.
get rid of your general,
Yeah.
right? But the butcher is like one of the least useful things in this list, actually, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes, like if he can buff somebody, great. But I actually value him less than the firebelly. And if I could make the firebelly my general, I would, and just not include a butcher.
Hmm.
But the firebelly's not a gut buster, so he doesn't unlock Iron Guts as battle line.
Right.
Which is why I don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice sometimes when someone puts a lot of effort into like killing the butcher,
Yeah.
way too much, in fact, and then I'm like, all right, like the not having command points sucks, sure, but like
Yeah.
that was the least important thing to me, other than like still it's like one step up from the Noblars essentially is what I value the butcher up.
Which are there to die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
So the Firebelly is an unbind for you, and he, right?
Yep, the Firebelly is very valuable to me in my opinion,
Okay.
just because he he's basically the cheapest wizard we have access to. He's 120 points. Um, and then in addition to that, he has Billowing Ash as a spell, which is a 12-inch bubble of -1 to hit.
That's
And
crazy.
ogres have quite terrible saves.
Yes, they do.
They have a lot of wounds, but
Yep.
you really need to kind of like stack it in your favor to prevent like save rolls from even happening in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I use the Firebelly for. Is he just kind of stands in the center, and then like generally where my whole army is should be wholly within 12 inches of that. So he's great for an unbind, as you said. He's great for the -1 to hit. And then it's also nice just because he's an Andorian Locust that a lot of people don't tend to pay attention to, because they see general Andorian Locust and they focus a lot on that, but they don't tend to like focus down the Firebelly. He's not a high priority target, even though he has a very like high priority for me utility spell.
Mm.
And the reason why I think he's really good now is because previously he had the spell which you kind of like need to get off to make him useful, and it was on a 7, which is like it's pretty high. Even if he's standing right next to the pot, it's not guaranteed. It's only like a 60% chance or something that he's actually going to cast the spell.
Right.
But every single turn, there's a 75% chance that you're going to get one primal die.
Yep.
And what I tend to do is I tend to cast like Mystic Shield on the Stonehorn first, and that kind of baits people out into like that'll bait an unbind of some kind out. And sometimes they'll even put a primal dice into it because they think, oh my god, this massive Stonehorn is going to be +1 to save, and it's going to run at me. But I usually save my primal die for Billowing Ash, because most of the time people don't really want to like put effort into like a -1 to hit bubble, but it's actually, again, as I said, like very important for ogres to have that, because it like throws a lot of people off and like messes with a lot of saves. And another thing is that it's -1 to hit in shooting and melee. And what's really nice about that is that the Ogre Gluttons, I chose the Tribal Banner Bearer with Lookout Noblar. That's -1 to wound for shooting attacks. So if you get your Billowing Ash off, all of a sudden your Stonehorn, both unit of Gluttons are -1 to hit and -1 to wound against shooting attacks,
Jeez.
which is like crazy.
Wait, who's creating the -1 to wound? Is that the
So the -1 to wound is on specific units. The Frostlord
okay, the Tribal Banner
just
Bearer
always
with
has
the
it.
Lookout Noblar thing?
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
And then what I tend to do is I just tend to have like a layer cake of ogres, essentially, where at the front you have your Noblars to like soak up any charge damage and stuff. After that is the layer of Gluttons. After that is the layer of Iron Guts. Sometimes they're not directly in a line like that. Sometimes the Iron Guts are just off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, the things that are going to be in shooting range are like the Noblars and the Gluttons, and no one wants to shoot Noblars. So
I mean, I've done it.
that's true. You have.
Actually, in the game, we did a practice game right before this. Was everything that I played in that list, was that painted? I can't remember. I think it was.
I think I used like a couple proxies.
No,
like
no, I
one
mean
proxy.
for me.
Oh, for you? I think so, yeah.
You used the Tyrant as a Firebelly, but
Yeah.
We were planning on spoilers. We were planning on doing like recreating that game. Only, I guess, you know, with a different. It'll be a different outcome. You know. So I like that a lot. And then you've got your Frost Lord on Stonehorn.
Yep. The Frost Lord is like a lot of people think he's like a meteor that you just like whip into your enemy's lines, and sometimes certainly he can be useful for that. But in my opinion, he's more like a scalpel. Like it's really good for like digging something out that you really want to remove from your opponent's list. And the reason for that is because he's got his fly ability. So his monstrous action is you roll 3d6 and he flies that far. Everything he passes over, he deals wounds to, and then he can just like land somewhere else.
Yeah.
So against an opponent that's like spread out from their castle or like an unskilled opponent, sometimes they'll expose their foot heroes. And I won't even throw the Stonehorn into something that I think he's going to deal a lot of damage to, or that I need to deal a lot of damage to. Sometimes I'll just like put all of his damage into general or like their casters or something like that, or just focusing on killing their blizzards.
Yeah,
and
kind of
then
like what
all
you
of a
did
sudden,
against my Zeech in another practice game.
exactly, yeah. He doesn't even go after like the biggest target, or sometimes he does, but usually it's that I want him to kill one thing and then just exist in your back lines, because the Stonehorn is like very terrifying to have like in your territory essentially. A lot of players tend to like really focus on getting rid of it instead of like the wall of ogres that's slowly approaching. So that's what I tend to use the Frost Lord for. And then he has Arcane Tome to give himself Mystic Shield, but sometimes I actually cast Arcane Bolt onto him because he can fly so far. And if he lands next to a hero that needs to die, if it only has like 1 or 2 wounds remaining or something, then all of a sudden you can just like D3 onto it and it just dies, right? It's much easier to kill.
Right.
And then he has Rockbane Elder, which is just -1 to wound, which is it's the best trait in my opinion.
Easy, hands down. It's almost kind of a reason to not run monster trucks because you can only have it once.
Yeah. There's one other pretty good trait, which is Metal Cruncher, which is that at the start of the combat phase, you can deal D6 mortal wounds to something that has a 3+ save or better. So that's really good against like the death meta actually currently. So if you have multiple, I would definitely take that as your second one. Because it's just a free D6 mortal wounds, right? Like, you could kill like an Immortus Guard, you could deal a bunch of wounds to like Catacross or anything in OBR, you're just free D6 mortal wounds, and then a lot of Soul Blight if you can manage to get into their back line. Like a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, same thing.
And it does D6, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't mishear that. Okay.
Yep, and it's every combat phase, including your opponents.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's a good call. I like it a lot.
Yep. So those are my leaders. I basically have like 2 utility wizards, and then like the Scalpel Stonehorn. Then I have Battle Line. Got 4 units there, so I've got 2 units of minimum size unit Gluttons. I put them with the Tribal Banner Bearer with Lookout Nobbler for the -1 to wound against shooting attacks. It didn't come out much, but I value that more than Bravery because most of the time either the unit gets wiped, it loses like 1 guy, or it's just not applicable. So I'd rather have that option. And then the 2 units of Iron Guts, they're Iron Guts. They have the Rune Maw Bearer. It's a 6-up spell shrug. It's never applied once, but cool.
I know, right? I think you got it in one of our games.
Maybe I might have, yeah.
I mean, I don't remember though. Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
And then, so one cool thing about the Iron Guts too is that a lot of people don't tend to screen their heroes very well, and that what they'll do is they'll create like a line of like 1 model and then have their hero like 3 inches back, and that's a perfect target for the Iron Guts because they can fight twice once per game. So I did this to 2 of my opponents and you, I think, Rob, in our game against each other, where what happened is the Iron Guts slam into the screen and they just absolutely annihilate it, right?
Yeah.
And even though the hero was like 3 or 4 inches away from the front line, the Iron Guts just said, okay, we're going to attack again, and then they just all stepped forward 3 inches the second time they attacked and just murdered that foot hero. And when I did that against my Zeech opponent in round 4, that broke his Acolytes battalion. just immediately, which was kind of painful for him, I think. But I did that against Matt Beasley and I did that against Joe Cryer, and both of them I think weren't really expecting it. Even though you tell people like, hey, Iron Guts can fight twice, you need to be five. You need your heroes to be 5 inches back from the front line to like be safe from an Iron Gut
Well,
stepping.
and then they can be shot because they're not
Yeah,
within 3 inches.
that's true.
Yeah. So it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because the Iron Guts like will wipe the screen 100% of the time, pretty
Oh, yeah.
much.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's the screens are usually like 20 wounds, and that Iron Guts like it's 13 attacks dealing 3 damage each, and they're on threes and threes, and I can just all out attack them, which I will if I plan to fight twice with them.
And they're -1 or -2?
-2. So it's
Jeez.
threes, threes, -2, 3 damage.
What the hell?
So they just like annihilate a screen,
Oh.
step forward, and annihilate a hero. And I ended up doing that to Matt Beasley's. I think it was like Stabas, and then his Gabapalooza after that.
Whew.
The Iron Guts just went like, and was like,
Oh, that's disgusting.
yeah, I love Iron Guts, but you can't have too many of them just because they are only a unit of 4 for 240 points. Like it's very expensive, and they're really not that durable.
No, for sure. Yeah, I hear you. But man, yeah, cool.
Sometimes you can get really cheeky too, where like if you charge in a unit of Gluttons and Iron Guts, the Gluttons will wipe the screen. The Iron Guts will step forward and like kill the heroes or whatever,
Oh, and then kill
and then they'll
something
step
else.
forward again and kill something else,
You
which is
mother
like really
God.
devastating.
Oh, jeez. And they yeah they're moving 6 inches total then with just pylons. Yeah.
And they have 2 inch reach, so they effectively have a threat range of 8 inches.
Well,
Um,
and even the gluttons like don't even need to necessarily kill everything because like you're doing a bunch of mortal wounds on the charge from both units. So
Yep.
that's crazy.
yeah, most of the damage in this list comes from those 4 units, the Gluttons and the Iron Guts.
Yeah.
Um, and then lastly, sorry, I have 2 other things. I have 1 Iron Blaster. I don't really like running more than one, just because I feel like if you're running more than one, you might as well lean into Underguts and have like a list of 4 Iron Guts or something. Or sorry, 4.
At
Did I
least
say Underguts or Iron Guts?
it's
Underguts
Underguts,
is what
yeah.
you would want to take the Iron Blasters in,
Yeah.
to give them like an additional red and stuff like
Lots
that.
of iron and guts getting thrown around.
Yeah. But I really like the Iron Blaster because there's a lot of times where like turn 2 or 3, you've kind of like shaken up your opponent's castle, and then they have a foot hero that's just outside of lookouts or range, and then you just go like it's D3 plus 3 damage, so on average it's going to deal like 5 damage to something, which is
Jeez.
perfect foot hero. I've sniped so many foot heroes with the Iron Guts, with the Iron Blaster. And then what was really useful for me too is I just like kept the Iron Blaster moving up with me in my game against Zinch, and what he would do is he would make a spawn into combat with me whenever like, and then the spell would kill something, I think.
Yep.
And that would be really bad for me because it would prevent a charge. So what I would do is I just have the Iron Blaster like trailing my units and just destroying that spawn so that I could actually get the charges off.
Nice.
I did that a lot, which for 200 points seems like it's not super worth it, but it allowed me to get my charges off. So
I 100% agree with you. The whole point of the sigil and part of Zeech's whole deal is trying to control your movement and keep you out of range. So no, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah, and then lastly, the because I should get up on comments here, but lastly, the Noblars, the what's it called? The Battle Scroll came out and basically freed 100 points out of my list, and I was at 1980, so it was like perfect for me to just slip in 1 unit of Noblars in there, and they're great. The only problem is that I've never played with screens before, so there were like multiple times this tournament where I actually like I blocked myself a lot. And actually, I would argue one of the biggest reasons why Jeremy Lemoy like beat me so good is that in that battle plan where you can deploy into combat, I made the mistake of making this long string of Noblars all the way around my like castle of ogres.
Okay.
Within 3 inches of his territory. So all he did was he put like 1 Catacross Death Rider or Caballos Death Rider into combat with them and locked me inside my own castle. So it completely ruined my first movement phase. I couldn't go anywhere.
Oh, that
So
is really good.
yeah, So I really messed myself up in that regard. But he capitalized on it like amazingly.
But
So
so
I have
when
to
he
commend him
put
for
them
that.
in combat, that means he put one of them within half an inch, right?
3 inches. That's all you need.
Yes. No, no, but when they charge in, they have to end within half an inch.
No, he didn't because he deployed them in combat. There was that specific battle plan which
Oh,
allowed you
that
to do that.
stupid battle plan. Right. Oh God. Um wow. That is an extremely smart move though to employ in this particular situation. That dude is firing on all cylinders for sure.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Okay. Um and then the Great Maw Pot, 2,000 points on the nose, one battle regiment, and you were two drops or one drop?
One drop.
One drop.
Yeah.
Wooga. Loves it.
That I every single time I gave my opponent the first turn. So
Nice.
and
Yeah.
I did not regret it.
I don't disagree. I don't tend to bring one drops just because I like bringing more toys. Even when it's like Cruel Boys, I just bring an extra crappy artifact for some reason. But in a tournament, yeah, it seems I'm kind of sad. Are you sad as well that that's just be kind of become the thing a little bit?
One drops?
Yeah.
I think there are valid reasons not to do one drops. It's just I know specifically for ogres, like I really care about the double turn and not getting double turns specifically.
Yep.
Um, so I do that for ogres, but for my Slaves to Darkness lists that I'm making, like every single one of them is like 11 or 12 drops or something crazy.
Right.
Just because I want to really capitalize on having like two Warlord battalions or something.
Right.
Um,
Cool. Okay. I mean it was for me it was like so Skaven, being probably my main army that I play even now. Um they don't care as much about drops, but I just mean as like a general rule, and I just don't tend to lean into them too much anyway. But as a general rule, I'm just kind of yeah, I just kind of sad, I guess, because like I really was enjoying that for a while there. The strongest players that I knew all seemed to be just going as many drops and just getting everything they can out of their army and not worrying about taking the first turn. In fact, purposefully employing more drops than necessary in terms of like not taking a battle regiment even when they could, just to delay the where things are going even more so. Like Matthias talked about it a lot when he was playing as Skaven. So yeah, it's you know I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed that time of the meta, but it seems like it is over. It seems like people
I I don't think so actually.
really good to hear.
The so I went 4-1, and progressively every single time it felt like uh, there were more and more drops from my opponent. Yeah.
Really, so
So
like the
like games
best
three,
players were all high drops.
not like super high. I think the Zinch player was like 4 drops or something.
Okay,
I think
my Z
I guess
list
it
is four
wasn't more and
drops.
more, but
Yeah,
like I didn't see a single 1 drop in my last 3 games. Um,
wow.
so like it's still there's a lot of arguments for and against it. Being a 1 drop is there's a huge disadvantage in that.
All
If
your
you
info.
lose the attacker defender role, yeah, your entire hand is shown into your enemy, so they can plan around exactly where you've deployed things, which is very valuable.
Yep.
Um, and most of the time you can assume that you've lost the deployment, like back and forth, then you're probably going to go first, and you can plan around that too. Like it's the double turn is like one of the most telegraphed mechanics of the game.
Yep.
The only thing is that I kind of dislike how many benefits they're giving the person going second,
Yep.
because you have like optimal focus, and a lot of the battle plans are allowing you to like do things if you go second as well.
I don't like it in the first turn specifically. It's
Yeah,
like I don't think you should get extra points for going second because like you want to take the bottom of the turn. Like most people want to take the bottom of the turn. That's not always true, of course, but like most of the time you want to take the bottom of the turn unless you got a really strong alpha or a very specific game plan that leans into it. So I 100% agree with you. And yeah, exactly. Like
yeah,
horrible saying, and we're designing some battle plans, and some of them are kind of playing with in that space. But
yeah, exactly.
cool. Okay. is there anything else you wanted to say about your list specifically? We've missed some of the chat, and so I wanted to.
Oh, I actually, if I was going to take ogres to an event again, I probably wouldn't change anything about this list. I was really happy with how it performed.
Yeah.
And the times where it didn't perform well, it was usually because of mistakes I made. So if you're an ogre player, give it a shot in your like friendly games, see how it performs. Let me know how it treats you.
I love how you're not a special
But
snowflake about it. You're just like, run it like me, you know?
yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
I think we should be sharing things with, at the end of the day, like a list is a list, and how you pilot it is going to be different from player to player, right?
It's so ridiculous, this idea that like oh, like this person created this list. Like, are you sure? Like there was probably other people that aren't in a public space that probably piloted it before you, or yeah, I agree. Yeah, I love that you're like that. Yeah.
Also, Keith, yes, exactly. That's gonna be that's gonna be the major thing for me is practicing actually using screens,
Actually, yeah.
because for
Yeah.
like up until a week before the event, I was like, screens. I don't need that. I'm just gonna put more fat ogres in front of you, and then there you go. Like that's it. My screens are gluttons. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, you're like screens types into the Google screens definition Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Like, what is this thing you speak
What
of?
does that mean?
uh, yeah. So okay. So sorry, we missed some. I'll try and run through some of these comments. Welcome, Darren. Holy mackerel. Um, do. Yeah, about buying the GHB. I mean, everyone should do as they see fit. You know, there are other alternatives to buying it out there, and yeah, I wouldn't blame anyone. I just hope no one, I don't know, weirdly blames me for buying it. Like for me, I get more than enough use out of my GHB, so it makes sense for me. But everyone should do what they as they see fit. I do like though, however, I do want to say that I really appreciate that all of the rules are in every GHB. That is something that like I'm actually happy to pay an extra whatever $10 or whatever it costs to add those in there. But yeah. Play with hasn't been playing battle tactics and season rules for the past 12 months. There you go. See, then there's no reason to even get a GHB for sure. Honestly, Age of Sigmar is great even without those things. Like you and I were playing just general core rulebook for the Path to Glory stuff, and I think it worked out really well. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about the dropper bottle thing. I'm just going through the comments real quick. I like having the physical copy of things. Yeah. It's I do too. I work much better with that over digital. There's a great tattoo color. Oh, I see that. Okay, so I went a little further back. So that's Mephiston. You answered that. Yeah, and have a chip in your head. That's funny, Dan. I don't feel that same way. Like, for 40K, I didn't buy a lot of the stuff, but like, if I like it, I'll buy it. Like the War Scroll cards are something that a lot of people don't buy, but I get like great use out of them. I just saves me so much time. Yeah, your meat space books. I can't justify. Oh, sorry, we're still on that. Went through that. Keith. Okay. Used to be a Beast Claw Raider until I got these big names. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Do you know what that means? It sounds like a.
I'm talking about big name for a tyrant.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Don't throw your general away or game. Okay, I went too far back. It looks like Carson playing. Looks like Dan doesn't want you to leave destruction. Onion layers, not cake. You know what? I did see this comment. I want to address it. Okay. I think you did make a mistake about saying cake. You should have said pie, and it should have been a meat pie. Layers of your meat pie. That could come off wrong. Pause. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Did you ever run the Regiment of Renown? I have not. I haven't even painted it yet. I still haven't even put my Magister together, and I'm trying to get a bunch of other stuff going. Yeah. I will do my best. Did you ever get to run? Oh yeah. Apparently, Regiment of Renowns have been from the very start of Fantasy. It's been around for a long time. I don't remember I don't. I want to say they weren't in fourth, which is when I started. I can't remember. I think they came in around fifth or sixth, but I could be wrong about that. They might be even older than I remember. I don't obviously I don't have a perfect memory of stuff that was happening like 30 years ago. So yeah. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. We both have layers. Okay. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what you do with your slaves to darkness. Um, in terms of the style, and you were playing them for a little while, but then you kind of went back to ogres because you were enjoying playing them more. But there's like I feel like slaves to darkness are going to be really interesting in this new GHB, and yeah.
Yeah, I have a list that I'm not sure if it's going to work, and I'm happy to share it here as well. Um, but basically, it's really weird and janky, and I don't know if I've quite solved like dealing with huge screens of skeletons and whatnot. But
Uh-huh.
if you run Kabbalists, which for those who aren't aware, makes all of your heroes are wizards now.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that because they're all wizards, and most Slaves to Darkness heroes are like foot heroes of some kind, they become Andorian Locusts as well. So like Chaos Lord on Carcadrax, Chaos Sorcerer Lords, which were already wizards, Chaos Lords, Exalted Heroes of Chaos. And where I put a lot of attention was, sorry, my dog's very angry, the Exalted Heroes of Chaos, because they dropped to 90 points. So,
Whoa.
and what you can do is you can get a Exalted Hero of Chaos, put it in Kabbalists, which makes them a wizard for 90 points. And then they have two options, one of which is like more damage, but the other one is you can give them a shield, which gives them both a 3+ save characteristic and 5+ mortal wound ward.
Jeez.
So all of a sudden you have like this 6 wound hero that's like quite tanky, who's a wizard for 90 points, and all of the Slaves of Darkness spell lore is like kind of garbage. So just give it Blizzard. And then all of a sudden you have like
A bunch of
6 or
expendable.
7 like shotguns on the field, just like wandering around, just waiting for something to get close enough to just like destroy it, right?
Right.
Um,
And they may or may not die, and even if they do, you're like, okay.
exactly. And then I figured out an interesting combo, which is if you take, I have 3 Exalted Heroes of Chaos in the list, one of which is my general. And then you can give the general the one where whenever he deploys, he rolls on the Eye of the Gods table. And Exalted Heroes of Chaos already roll on the Eye of the Gods table after deployment. So you have 4 rolls on the Eye of the Gods table. And I mathed it out. And if you mark them as undivided, you can re-roll any one of the dice from the Eye of the Gods table, which effectively makes it so they like will never turn into spawn.
Whoa.
But if you can take a grand strategy where if you roll an 11 or 12 on the Eye of the Gods table and get Dark Apotheosis, that's your grand strat. So all of a sudden you're rolling 4 times on the Eye of the Gods table, re-rolling one of the dice for each of them, and there's like a 70% chance that you just get your grand strat off deployment.
Off deployment. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. And no one can take it from you. There's 0 interaction from your opponent on that.
Whoa.
And then you can keep attempting to do it, like whenever you step onto an objective, you roll on the Eye of the Gods table. Whenever you kill an enemy hero with your hero, you roll on the Eye of the Gods table. You cast Chaotic Conduit, you roll on the Eye of the Gods table. So it's like almost a guaranteed grand strat after a certain point.
Does Dark Apotheosis, does that turn them into a...
So you choose to either turn them into a Demon Prince or pick any other result on the Eye of the Gods table.
Oh, man.
And
whoa,
on the Eye of the Gods table,
but wait,
there's a bunch of very exactly. There's a bunch of very useful options actually. Number one is that if they're a wizard, they get an additional cast. So you're just suddenly making these guys into like multicasters. There's another one which gives them a 6-up ward, another one which gives them a 5-up ward, another one which adds 1 to their rend, another one which what's the last important one? Trying to remember. I said spellcast, 6-up ward, 5-up ward, rend, and
another thing.
I can't remember. There's a lot of good ones though.
And then like but if you're against like Nurgle or some other faction, don't forget.
Sorry, it's a 2-up spell shrug is what it is.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So,
yeah, that's really
but it's only one-time use. But the thing is, then all of a sudden, like if you roll that, you turn into like Null Myriad for one offensive spell.
Totally.
So you just have these like crazy wizards walking around the battlefield. So I feel like that'd be pretty
Jeez.
fun. And then obviously you can run whatever you want as far as battle line. I've got some of the Chaos Chariots. I I've got like some Chaos Warriors running around to just be like a screen. I've got a block of 10 Chaos Knights to be like a one-time hammer and like a fast anvil.
And
And
that's in
then
addition, though, before I forget, to being able to turn him into a Demon Prince of Nurgle and shut off
yeah,
ward saves for an army where you need that.
he keeps the they keep the Mark of Chaos, so they'd be an undivided Demon
Oh, got
Prince.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was the other one that Eric was saying was really good, was the Undivided guy. So, still, sheesh, that's really cool.
Yep.
You
And
could
what's
just have like,
crazy about
yeah.
go ahead, sir. Oh, what's crazy about Kabbalists is um or what's crazy about Slaves to Darkness in general is that there's a heroic action that allows you to cast on 3d6 instead
Yeah.
of 2d6.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, even if you don't have primal dice, like there's a good chance that you can get Blizzard off with
Yeah.
every single one of your heroes.
Yeah.
So now your opponent is just sweating, wondering like which hero is he going to select. I can't get close to any of his heroes, otherwise something's going to get blasted with 46 mortal wounds, right?
Well, and if you've got 6 guys, then you could take the Acolyte Battalion, add an extra on a 3-up. You're getting an extra just for you, primal dice, right? And you could still have room to do get a spell slot for or an extra artifact, or I mean, there's so many things you could do. That's really cool.
Yeah. Horrible asks, sounds fun. Have you run the numbers on failing the grand strat? It's you kind of just do the inverse, and so that it's never a 100% chance that you're going to get your grand strat because it's dice, right? I mean that's the game. If you fail like all of your saves and just roll terribly, you're going to fail your grand strat as well.
Yeah.
Um,
You're gonna fail
but
everything. Yeah.
you're going to fail everything. But
Yeah.
so basically, I ran the numbers, and it's about a 75 to 80% chance that with like a normal turn one, you're just going to get your grand strat turn one.
That's crazy. And
Yeah.
and like, geez, like that's so high, and that's so much higher than anything else in like the GHB, for example. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems good. Pretty good. Okay.
Yep.
Um, I'm not sure what. So Bahamut was saying, I'm sad the FOD chain got nerfed with clan rats exploding. I'm not sure what that refers to. Dan says there's never too many iron guts. I think we can all kind of agree on that, except Carson. Yeah. You don't need to feel obligated to. Oh yeah, I appreciate that. I'm doing my best. Shaman the Chill Lands convo was. Oh okay. See now I'm going back and catching up again. No layers, not like because I am. You've woken up. Hooray! Welcome, Alex. I don't remember what we were going to ask you, but welcome. Okay. Step 1, play Slaves to Darkness. Step 2, take a Kabbalist list. Step 3, look at your friend who plays a wizard army and say, hey, look what I can do. I like it.
I was looking at the lists, all of the Slaves to Darkness lists that came to Tacoma, and not a single one ran Kabbalists, which is really weird.
No kidding.
I thought that
actually,
it would
you know
see
what?
more.
I actually kind of get it, and here's why. They're just like, everyone was leaning into something else, and then when they're like, well, surely they're not going to run this GHB for this, and then they're like, oops,
That's fair. Yeah.
new GHB, and they're like, oh, I have to paint like 5 wizards and X, Y, and Z, and they're just like, I can't do that. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
No, that makes sense.
I do think that they're going to be super popular soon. Funyuns. Welcome, Jim. I feel my maggot can grand strat last game. Honestly, I don't think about my grand strat as much as I should, because I just don't find that the games get that far, but like I really should think about it a bit more, but I don't know. That's something I need to work on. Okay.
I'm actually kind of not a fan of the Ogre Grand Strat that you kind of have to take ready for Plunder, just because it's very much so a win more Grand Strat. Like,
why do you have to take it?
You don't have to, but like it's really the only viable Ogre one.
Oh, got it.
And then there aren't any really great.
Um, I
like
see.
n- like
Alternatives.
GHB ones.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
GHB ones are all pretty hard. So if you don't have good book ones, you're kind of up a creek, you know.
yeah. Because like take what's theirs is essentially just like if you win, then sure you can have more units in your opponent's territory. That's not a huge thing to achieve, but if you don't win, then there's like essentially no chance that your grand strat is getting achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, so would you like to take us through your kind of just give us like a basic synopsis of or summary, however you want to do it, of how your games went?
Sure.
Cool.
I'll just go through all of them, I guess.
Sure. I will
Um,
pull up those pictures. Um,
which pictures?
well, just of like, oh, did I close that? I might have closed it. No, I didn't.
Yeah, so
Haha.
game one was just against our lovely editor James Love.
Yep.
That was he ran I didn't have Deepkin against me, which I actually struggled with because he put a unit of 30 Namarti Reavers behind, like he deep struck them in, I think.
Yep. With the Soul
Uh,
Scryer.
yep. No, no. So, oh, yes, with the Soul Scryer.
Right.
Uh, and I was dumb and I charged into it and it just like destroyed a unit of gluttons immediately. And I was just like, oh god,
Because they're
like,
+1, -1 to their hit because when you're within 9,
yep,
so they're always hitting on threes when you charge in like that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah, that's a lot of shots at
it
-1.
is
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I managed to pull it through just in the end, just because like IDK, unfortunately, they're like a glass cannon essentially.
Very,
Like they
very.
hit hard, but they can't take too much of a beating. Um,
No, this is true.
so that went pretty well. James was great to play against. He was really like accommodating, as I said, with the nosebleed and stuff. um, the second game I played was against Ossiarch Bone Reaper's Null Myriad, which
Cool.
Null Myriad is, for anyone that doesn't know, anything marked with Null Myriad is a 2+ spell shrug, uh, which is very good in the current meta, in my opinion. It's kind of like Blizzard insurance, essentially. And then if you face a Seraphon player, then you're also doing pretty well too. But one interesting thing that Eric actually pointed out to me was Catacross is always Mortis Praetorians.
Yes.
So you can still deal your mortal wounds and spells to Catacross, and then he shrugs them onto his Immortus Guard, which will take
Oh,
the wounds anyway, right? So
right.
Catacross is kind of like your entry point. But if you run into like a Null Myriad list that doesn't have Catacross, then you're kind of hooped as a like a spell damage heavy army.
I see. That's interesting. But
Yeah.
then, but if they shrug it, if he shrugs it onto the Immortalis uh, guys, then they don't get their ward save, right? So I guess
Oh,
that's something.
yep.
And
Yeah, that's very true.
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So even better.
Um,
I mean, everyone's taking Catacross, though, it seems like.
there's a yes. Yeah, it does seem like it. Yeah.
Not everyone, obviously, but, you know, hyperbolic statement. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, right. I was doing things.
That game went pretty well, I think. Well, actually, it started kind of rough for me just because like I failed my Avalanche of Flesh battle tactic, which I usually don't. Like I charged a bunch of stuff in, but just didn't roll super well. But ended up just sustaining through the game against him and pulling out the win.
This is
I think
against the No Myriad player?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Game 3 was against Matt Beasley and his Gits, and that was the Ice Fields one. Basically, I deployed like as far back as I possibly could
Yeah.
and gave him the first turn.
Uh-huh.
So like he moved his screens up and whatnot, but he didn't get super close. And essentially what I did is I just like he was just close enough for me to land some pretty like long bomb-ish charges. But I got the Iron Guts in and did what I said, where I like wiped his screen and then stepped forward again and wiped his like Gabapalooza. And more importantly, I managed to tie both his unit of Squig Herd and his Hoppers or Bounders, the Lance guys.
Bounders of the Lance guys. Yep.
I managed to tie both of them into combat so they didn't get to charge me, which was like huge.
Huge. Absolutely.
That pretty much saved the game, in my opinion.
But he was running King's Git, so it doesn't matter as much as with the Squig Herd, right?
How so?
Well, because Jaws.
Oh, because they would be
only in Jaws of
yeah,
Orc
yeah.
you get +1 attack, but
Yeah, but either way, like I don't want to get charged by
No, you don't.
either of
Yeah,
those
you
things.
don't. You want to
And
control it. Yeah.
he was also then trapped in his territory.
Yes.
Was the more important thing.
So you kind of did what Jeremy Lemoy did to you.
Kind of, yeah. Like the entire battle
Right.
was essentially in Matt Beasley's territory. And then what my Stonehorn ended up doing was like kind of going all the way around the board edge.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not aware, Ice Fields is not Dawn of War deployment. It's actually lengthwise,
Right.
like split in the middle.
Yeah.
So the Stonehorn just went all the way around the board edge and ended up actually stomping the Loon Shrine.
Wow.
And I think that was in turn 4.
Dang.
Uh,
Really?
So he didn't get to do anything with his Loon Shrine turn 4 or 5. Not that 5 matters, but actually it does because you can deploy onto objectives and stuff.
Right.
And that was a really well fought game. Matt Beasley is a great guy. I definitely got lucky in some areas, like getting some long bomb charges and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a really good game.
Nothing
Very
but
close.
net.
Yeah. And then my fourth game was against Joe Cryer, his Zeech list. That was like, it was a lot of mental capacity or like a lot of like things to consider while facing that army, and I ended up making a lot of mistakes actually. And that game was like super close. I think it ended up being like 21-17 at the end. Neither of us got our grand strat. We both failed like a couple battle tactics. Like we were like slugging it out truly.
Which is crazy.
And there's one thing,
right?
Yeah, exactly. But one thing I realized I pretty much could have had the game in the bag in turn 4 because I mixed up. There are 2 ogre battle tactics that are kind of similar. One of them is that at the start of the combat phase, I might have already messed it up, but basically like all of your ogres are eating and all of your ogres are hungry are the 2 battle tactics generally. And when that needs to happen is different on both of them. And all of your ogres are hungry, which is none of them are in combat, is at the end of the turn. So basically, if you get all of your ogres into combat and wipe everything, you can still achieve that battle tactic.
Right.
I chose that battle tactic in round 4, I believe, against him. Mm-hmm. And all he had on the table was a unit of 6 Furies and 1 Gaunt Summoner that had Blizzard on it.
Right.
And the Gaunt Summoner only had 3 wounds remaining on it. And I made the stupid decision. I literally had like 2 units of Gluttons like 5 inches away from him or something, like eager to charge essentially. But earlier in the game, I failed my I failed my battle tactic of not getting Avalanche of Flesh because I made some like heinous charge rolls, and I had not been like rolling very well on my impact hits or anything like that. So I was like, there's a chance that if I charge it, they're not going to kill it with impact hits because I misinterpreted it. I thought that all ogres have to be hungry at the start of the combat phase.
Right.
So what happens is that I would need to like kill it with impact hits essentially, but I was wrong. What I could have just done was charge them in, just murder him, and then like all of a sudden he doesn't do that. And he actually ended up bouncing back from that pretty good by the thing like blizzarded away a unit of Gluttons, and then he controlled a pendulum to like deal even more wounds. Like it did quite a bit to mess with me, and like keep him in the game for a little bit. But yeah, sorry, my dog is angry. That was a very well fought game. Joe is a really great guy. He was probably my favorite opponent the weekend, I think.
Wow, that says a lot.
Yeah, we were kind of just like bantering the whole time, which is great. Yeah.
Very cool. I'd love to have him on the podcast at some point if I could. I want to talk about Zeech. I want to get better at Zeech, you know.
He definitely knows how to play it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a well-known player as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you played a lot of well-known players, man. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then
ended up pulling through the win on that one.
There was no other games after that.
Game 5 was the last game. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I went 4-0. Yeah, it's great. Technically true. Just so I can look at the comments. Someone says, I wonder how many of these Null Myriad armies have the dark gray skellies wearing green armor. That was my 2nd edition army. Don't have them anymore. Don't know.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah. Then my last battle was against Jeremy Lemoy. And that was the aforementioned Mortis Praetorian's debacle with the deploying into combat. So he's a great player, but that's definitely a tough matchup for ogres. OBR is already really tough, but Mortis Praetorians was just like he definitely capitalized on the
Oof.
counter charging.
Oh
Um,
man, yeah, that was almost like a lined up, and again he I don't want to say exploited, but he utilized the wonky kind of mission rules to maximum effect. Made like a
yeah,
40 chess galaxy brain move, and really took it to you. But like the super smart. But man, like I've played, OBR a couple times now, and granted, like one of those was against Matthias. You know what I mean? Very strong player, and Mortis Praetorians again, but man, they're hard for not just ogres. That's what I'd say. Like, I had a very killy list for both instances, which is what I tend to lean into regardless. And I'm not sure what to do about them. I know there's counters to it, and so, maybe I'll figure that out. But, whew,
yeah.
never.
I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see who Jeremy like who he won against previously, like in the tournament, because I know he also faced Alex, who was bringing Iron Jaws, which is like equally painful to for Alex
Right.
to go into.
I didn't know that Alex played. He played Jeremy Lemoyne, not Chris Lemoyne.
Yep, he did. It was in like battle round two, I want to
Oh,
say,
shoot. Wow.
maybe three, probably two.
Yeah, that's.
So,
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's.
that's just how it goes, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone, I know that Eric, his first couple matches were like Horn, Myriad, Teclis, and like Lumineth. Like it was like everything he didn't want to go against, essentially, like in a row. And he's like, "God."
Yeah.
That's just the nature of tournaments, right? Like there's no one army that can like face off against every army equally. Everything has like advantages and disadvantages against different things, and if you go to a tournament and you get smacked by something, you shouldn't feel bad because that can just happen, right? And likewise, bad dice rolls happen and good dice rolls happen for your opponent. Like, yes, you can.
Absolutely. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. I say it probably way too often on the in the battle reports, but like it's true. You can't take it personally, and like it's another reason why you should. Well, not never, but like you should. I would highly recommend avoiding trying out a list, and then if it doesn't go your way, just scrapping it and going somewhere else. Like you can't do that because um, when you're trying out a list, you don't even fully understand it, is the truth. And then
Yeah,
and then you can get bad dice, you can get a bad matchup. Yeah, like you could be playing against a skew list. Like that's another thing. Like I used to only play this hyper skew Age of Sigmar 1.0 Skaven list, which was like it was broken against some armies and like useless against others. But like, I said to Eric, Andy, a lot of the guys that were into tournament play and that kind of thing, they wanted to play against it, and then the first time it was always a wash. Everyone except for actually Veronica, because she had Daughters of Cain at the time, and she just had this huge castle of like 90 witch elves, and so like my list was useless against it. It just did basically nothing, and her whole army was battle shock immune, and then she murdered everything. Oh
yeah,
man.
it,
I mean, yeah, it's understandable, Alex.
yeah. And to kind of reinforce what you said about like sticking to a list as well, this ogre list that I ran at Tacoma is like very, very similar to the list that I ran at Kick or Death back in March,
Wow.
right? So it's like several months in the making. And span across GHB, essentially just kind of modifying a little bit,
Hmm.
really just getting used to like exactly how all of these units play. And yeah, you really just got to stick to something. And like, I feel like you should fully understand a unit before you kind of write it off, definitely.
Yeah.
Except for Frost Sabers.
Frost sabers. Oh,
Those
those
are
are
the
the
ogre.
the
Yeah,
the cat dog things, right?
those are just bad.
Those
Those
are
are just
just
bad.
bad, and they're ugly too. Don't forget about ugly. Um, the models are, yeah. Ironjaw seems like an army of my army does one thing, so a lot of people know what to expect and how to counter it. Uh, You preach sticking to a list and then do anything but. Yeah, Alex is famous for not only not being able to pick a list, but not being able to pick an army. Sometimes, like,
I think
yeah,
I think like two people out of our gaming club like swapped their list for something else like 3 days before the event or something, or 4 days. Like I know Alex was like juggling around a bunch of stuff that he wanted to do, and
but
he
like,
has swapped from OBR like Thursday
yeah,
before
yeah,
to Corn. And I
and
think the reason that he did is because he couldn't get enough painted for his OBR, but still, like that's wild to me. I'm like, no, I could not do that.
so
Not a chance.
stressful. And Dale switched from Gits because they got like absolutely smashed in the GHB back to his original list of daughters. Yeah, at least ugly and bad, not ugly and good, like Marauders. Yeah, like Marauders were. Luckily, Marauders are back to being trash, where they should be, until they get new models. Right? We can all agree on that, I think. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's funny because like there's a lot of Skaven stuff that's just old and super ugly, but I just refuse to get into it because I don't want to paint up a bunch of, you know, ugly models, you know, even if they're good. But yeah, that was, I mean, congrats again, man. What a, you know, like anytime you go 4-1 at a tournament, you're doing amazing. But to go, you know, like to play on top table 4-0 and then, you know, losing the final game is even more. Yeah, plastic acolytes for Skaven. Yeah, yeah. You know, there's so many things needed for Skaven. Don't get me started. I've been started so many times on this podcast. I'm resisting. Oh, but it's killing me. Um, yeah. Anything you wanted to add for the? It looked like
I
a
don't
really
think
cool
so.
tournament, man.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Um, it seems like GW organizes like just a handful of tournaments every year. I'm looking forward to going to the other tournaments as well that are like hosted by FLGS or at other clubs and stuff like that. I think
Right.
I'm probably going to be going to like one or two more this year, and then LVO
Nice.
in January. So
Hell
if
yeah.
anyone in the chat's going to LVO, I'll see you there.
Cool thing about LVO too is that there won't be a new GHB, so it
Yeah,
won't be
it'll
like
be
this.
mid GHB.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That'll be really cool. So the only updates might be like the Harbinger stuff or whatever, like the Dawnbringer books.
I
Um,
I
yep.
suspect that Cities of Sigmar and FEC are going to be quite good books as well. Um, it seems like they kind of like ramp up how good books are right before the edition ends, so that they can kind of carry through the next edition. I think that seems to be a thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see like a lot of cities in FEC.
Right. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Um, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else coming out other than the Harbinger books that we know about? Probably not, right? So I guess we're not going to get any new armies other than yeah, we're not going to get any new armies in Age of Sigmar 3.0, really.
Probably not.
You could argue
Yeah.
Crow Boys, I guess, but they're not a new army; they're a new subfiction. So,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, that's
There's a lot
yeah.
though. Like we've
No, oh, I
talked about
know.
this
No, I
before.
agree. I agree. I actually think it was good to chill out for an edition. Um, so then, so you're going to? Are you going to Kippers?
Yep, I'll be going to Kippers.
So Kippers is an island, Vancouver Island, I should mention.
Yeah, it's on an island.
It's on an island. So that's in October, I think.
Yeah, that'll be I think like mid-October, the
Cool.
14th or something.
And then, are you going to? Are you going to? What's it called? The one up in Prince George?
No, I won't be able to make it to that one.
What about Sparkle Party?
I'm considering going to Sparkle Party
Yes,
just
do
because
it.
it's pretty close and a
Yeah.
lot of the Dimensional Cascade people are going to be there,
Yep.
which I think is going to be a really fun time. I also think it's just going to be a cheaper thing than Tacoma because not only was the ticket really expensive for the U.S. Open, but Tacoma is just a really expensive city,
Really?
um, specifically around the convention area
Oh.
district. I found that just like getting meals and drinks and stuff was like crazy. Like I ordered like a double gin and tonic on the first night, and it was like $22 US. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. And I was like, okay, that's the only one I'm gonna have. Sounds good. Taking a beer after this.
Whoa. That's
So
wild. Cause like, and usually stuff like up here, that's not like crazy, crazy, but
that's still pretty great.
no, I
Like I
know
would
that's still
expect
crazy, but
15
like,
bucks Canadian usually is what you use for like a cocktail.
how much do you usually pay?
15 bucks for a cocktail
Okay.
Canadian?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I paid 16. I think it was $16 for a double of Lagavulin, and that was in Whistler.
Sure.
And Whistler's kind of known to
That's
be a little
whiskey
bit.
though. That's like a glass of scotch though. That's much different than just a cocktail.
Are those are cocktails more expensive generally?
No, cocktails are usually cheaper than if you
Okay,
want to have like
that's what
scotch
I
on the
was.
rock.
That's kind of what I was saying though, like as well. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yes, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like having said that though, but like we're used to things being more expensive up here in Canada, um, in general, even without the difference of the dollar, just because like things are just a little more expensive up here in general. But that's
Yeah,
wild. Okay. Dawnbringer cities
yeah.
and FEC, I think we'll always see over the next 12 months. Cool. And then yeah, oh, you said Dawnbringers, $2 for a double. I paid I paid, I think it was $16 for a double of Lagavulin. That was a couple of years ago, but out in
Yeah.
Whistler, yeah, like downtown Whistler. This is really cool bar. Um, yeah, my brother wanted to go, so
Yeah.
I remember being in a club in Vegas and it was 25.
I'll be
That
staying dry in Vegas, I guess.
yeah yeah you know
Yeah.
uh
I do have one more story to tell about the tournament, which
sure,
has to do with model painting as well.
cool,
It was just something silly that happened where like it was in my fourth game, and
okay.
this guy walks up to the table and he's like, "Those are really nicely painted models. Like, good job." I didn't hear what he said. In my mind, I thought he was talking about the dice because it was super loud in there. So I thought he was like saying nice dice or something. And I said, "Oh, thanks. My mustache is my whole personality," because I had the mustache dice, right? So from his perspective, he just walks up to the table and says, "Oh, it's a really nice painted army." And I just go, "Thanks. My mustache is my whole personality." And he's like, "Cool, man." Yeah,
Is that what he said? Cool, man.
I think it's something along the lines. He's like, "Okay," like, or cool. And eventually we realized that that's what like, or sorry, I had like picked up the dice. And he's like, "Oh, you have mustaches on your dice too." I was like, "I thought that's what you were talking about at
Oh,
first," and
thank
we had a
thank
good
God
laugh
he
about it.
said
Yeah,
something.
but
Jeez,
but it was
that's
like,
I thought that's where it ended, like cool, man, and then he just walks away. That would have been better. And then oh geez Louise, that's amazing. You guys did get it figured out though, hey?
yeah,
Oh dear. I can't offer insight into the cost of alcohol in the Upside Down. Wow, over a decade. Good for you. Um, it has been it's been at least 24 hours since I've had a drink. Um, yeah, but uh, what was I? What were we talking about just before that? Oh yeah. The guy came up. Right on. Yeah. Is there anything else? I'm trying to. I felt like there was
I don't think
something
so.
else to do with the tournament, but yeah. Anyway, it was super awesome. A bunch of the club members went. The Dimensional Cascade people are all super nice. Oh, that was what the thing I meant to say, but I didn't want to interrupt. Ricky Fisher makes these amazing mats that have all the deployment lines and objectives on
Yes.
them, and so he's making them for the new GHB, but they're not done yet. They will be ready for the Sparkle Party
Sparkle Party.
in September. So if you're
I
looking
would
for
absolutely
those,
pick one up.
what's that?
Yeah, I said I would absolutely pick one up if he has them ready. Um,
He's
they're
he,
so convenient for like setting up a game.
yeah,
Instead of having to like measure out where all the objectives are, there's just a convenient little like dotted line, and you just slide the objective template over it, and you're good. Or just place your token in the center. Yeah, it's super smart idea.
it's a really cool thing, and um, I'm gonna try and like if you when you get one, or I know Kenrick was looking at them before, and a bunch of people were, so we're gonna get them on the channel as well. Like just show them on the channel, you know. Like I think for the most part they don't really work as much for my particular brand of more narrative style battle reports, but I really want to show off how cool they are. And so I just said to him like, hey, when are you going to get them back in? Because I'd love to show what, what they look like and everything. But yeah, cool. Okay, I think I've remembered everything, but we'll see. As soon as I hit the
Yeah, that
button
was
to turn
pretty
it
much
off.
it.
Yeah, but um, yeah, thanks for telling us about your awesome tournament thing. Congrats again. Best painted is super awesome. You almost won best overall, um, but
Yeah. There's so Ricky Fisher ended up winning best overall, and he was like 1 or 2 places ahead of me. Both of us went 4-1. So basically, it was a matter of like how many battle tactics and grand strategies were achieved,
wow,
and that was it. So congratulations to him. I hope you're
absolutely.
happy,
Ricky
Ricky. I'm just
Fisher's
kidding.
also been on the channel. Super nice guy. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
could not have gone to someone more deserving, I think.
oh right. I don't know if Alex you're still here or not, but maybe you can tell us later. And I can get out my. I've got a bunch of gut rippers, so I can get out my gut rippers and see if I can figure out what that face is. But maybe you can show Alex or take a picture for Alex, and we can figure out what the face is on your trophy. We must get to the bottom of it. Yeah, very cool guy. He's awesome. Okay. Thanks to everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. You guys, if you're still watching this, really appreciate you too, even if it's in the replay. Um, let us know if you guys are going to any tournaments coming up. What you're going to, what you're playing. Would love to hear about it. What you think about the new meta. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.